Today is Thursday, February 2nd, 2017, and today I want to talk about the crazy kerfuffle, the big brouhaha going down at the campus of UC Berkeley. That's the University of California at Berkeley in the San Francisco area. Now, that, of course, was the big riot, the big melee, the big brawl between these so-called protesters, which are really just paid people to come in there to riot. A lot of other, subversive groups that attach on to the actual riot. And the same people that were at this riot were also at other riots, especially, UC Davis, which is only about an hour and a half away from UC Berkeley. A similar thing happened, and it was all centered around Milo Yiannopoulos. Oh, Milo. Milo is this guy that has so much hate towards him, but I think a lot of that hate is manufactured, and a lot of that hate is kind of like a tribal mentality. That's the reason why so many riots break out when he comes to your town. But before I get into all of that, before I get into who Milo is, before I get into the reaction from the mainstream media, before I get into reaction from the president, before I get into the reaction from just general people, what I want to do right now is roll a clip from NBC. They show you some of the footage so you can kind of get a better visual representation of what happened. A woman got assaulted, pepper sprayed. The police were getting shot at with fireworks, all kind of crazy stuff. They had on, all black, kind of like ninja costumes, like somebody affiliated with UC Berkeley said. Those kind of things I'll talk about after we get done rolling the clip. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
The violence erupted between police and agitators, who lit fires, smashed windows, and destroyed businesses. UC Berkeley police tried to clear the crowd of 1,500, who spilled onto the streets. Then chaos and fistfights broke out. Demonstrators came to protest Milo Yiannopoulos.
No Trump! No Milo!
The controversial Breitbart news editor who has been criticized for what some call misogynist and racist views. Yiannopoulos is an outspoken Trump supporter and political firebrand with ties to the president's chief strategist, Steve Bannon. The speech was canceled, but Yiannopoulos found a platform on social media.
I am, of course, not the racist or the sexist or anything else that the posters that they put up claim that I am. That even if the things that they said about me were true, this still wouldn't be an appropriate response to ideas.
Home to the 1960s free speech movement, Cal Republicans say Yiannopoulos was denied the very right this university has long valued.
This is supposed to be the home of the free speech movement, and I think it just ended last night.
This is the most recent college protest since the election. A polarizing figure who never took the stage, igniting a debate over free speech and what is acceptable to say. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Berkeley.
All right, so you see what's going on there. You see the carnage. You saw the carnage. It was right in front of you. You can't really miss it. You can't deny it. Now, here's the thing about that story. Before I get into what actually happened and who were the key players, who I think were the key players, and the reaction from people, I just want to talk about how NBC framed this story. Now, for the most part, they were on point, except for two main things. The first one was pretty obvious. If you know Milo, if you know anything about Milo, you know who he is. Milo Yiannopoulos. What's the number one thing about Milo that everybody talks about? It's the fact that he's gay. He's gay and he's a right-leaning person. He's not even all the way conservative. He has some things I disagree with, but he's gay and he's attracted to black men. So when you call him racist and when you call him all these is and obes and icks, how can you say that when he's gay himself? You see? Now, see, if he was a liberal, if he was a leftist, they would have said that he was gay from the beginning. What if a leftist liberal was being attacked by right-wing people saying that he couldn't come and speak because they didn't agree with his views because he was gay or because he had views that were on the left and they didn't agree with? What if that was the case? Can you imagine what the furor would be from the mainstream media? They would say he's gay right away. That'd be the main thing. You have the LGBT squad come out to defend him, but they don't even mention that he's gay. They said everything else. They say, oh, he's right-leaning. He has views that could be considered racist and all this and that, but they don't say the main thing about him. It was really crazy, and it's really just how the mainstream media, how they operate. If you did not know who Milo Yiannopoulos was, you wouldn't necessarily know that he's gay. I mean, you might be able to look at him and tell, but why wouldn't they say that he's gay if they would say that somebody else is gay from the beginning? I mean, I saw a story yesterday talking about the so-called transgender boy not being allowed into the actual Boy Scouts, and then they had to sue, and now he is allowed into the Boy Scouts. But you don't want to talk about how Milo was gay and was not allowed to speak by some real fascists. And then they want to say that they're trying to fight fascism. They're trying to say that Milo was a fascist. Well, who's a fascist? I mean, he's just trying to come and have a talk and have a meeting about stuff. And really, realistically, Milo is more of an entertainer. Milo and Richard Spencer are kind of one and the same. You know, I think Richard Spencer is kind of like the straight version of Milo. You know, pretty guys, they come in, they got kind of a little bit of charisma to them. They're edgy and stuff like that. They kind of get people triggered. People come to see that because they're entertained. That's what that is. But at the same time, they have a political message that kind of drives the conversation, makes people think, and it gets people kind of, you know, off their hind parts and start to kind of get the wheels turning in the brain. That's what they do. That's why people come to see them. That's why they have a following on the internet and also real life. But to not mention that which makes them, you know, really popular. If Milo wasn't gay, he wouldn't be as popular as he is. The fact that he's gay makes him much more popular because he can talk about things from a different perspective, different point of view than the average, you know, white conservative can. So when you don't mention that, you already know what you're doing. And these people that are out there, like I said, they're trying to protest, so-called protest, really just rioting. A lot of them are being paid. Like I said, you probably have some of the same people that went to UC Davis, drove an hour and a half, or caught a plane, or got a ride from somebody that was paying them to come. You know who these people are. Your George Soroses and your other people, not just Soros, but a million other people out there that got money. Not really a million, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of people out there that have interest in destabilizing the country. I think that they are behind some of this. And then you got people that are just ignorant, don't know what's going on. They're upset with Trump. So anybody that says that they support him in any kind of way, or they like kind of what he does, and then they want to come to your college campus and say anything that could be considered not left wing, or dare I say anti-left wing, anything like that, they get shut down right away. People are getting paid to do that. And also people that just don't like him and don't like Trump. It's like it's become popular now because it's become a trend. And it seems like people are allowing it to happen now. I saw Trump had a tweet that said something right along the lines of if UC Berkeley allows this kind of behavior, does not allow someone to be able to come and speak, free speech, then they may be denied federal funds.
Today, President Trump responded in a tweet, raising the question of federal funding for the university.
Federal funds allocated to universities are used to provide financial aid to low-income students and support the basic research that fuels the economies of the states and the nation.
You know, it wasn't an affirmative statement. It was just like kind of throwing it out there like, hey, if you don't tighten up, we may take some of your funds away. Now, that might be kind of over the top because how can they control what people on the outside do? If you get people that come in from different states, maybe even different countries that come in there and so-called protest, how can they stop that and how can they be punished for that? But at the same time, if you have some of your students out there who are doing it and they're not being held accountable, they're not being expelled, they're not being brought up on charges or whatever, then you need to be held responsible for that, because you need to be able to have it be well known that when anybody comes like that, any kind of public speaker, so-called provocateur or whatever it is, you can't be out there engaging in violence. Peaceful protests only, but then once you engage in violence, once you pick up that first rock, it's a wrap for you. You'll be immediately expelled. That's the way it's got to be. That's got to be the kind of message you send to these people, to these so-called protesters, right? That's what it's got to be. So I think Trump may be kind of over the top with that, but at the same time, there is where you can kind of apply that to the appropriate people. If people that go to the school are not being disciplined, then something needs to happen to the school, right? People that don't come to the school, you can't hold the university responsible for that. That's just how I feel about it. But my opinion about Milo as I close, I don't really have a problem with him. You know, he has his own opinion, just like everybody else. You know, I don't have a problem with anybody on the left that wants to speak their point of view. There's people on the left that have very dangerous views, and they talk about actually killing people. You know, I mean, I think that's a problem right there when you really talk about killing people. Milo, I'm talking about hurting nobody. He's just talking about wanting to maintain your country, wanting to be safe, not wanting to be assaulted. And then he's gay. So, you know, in reality, he is what the SJW would want someone to be. In my humble opinion, you know, he is somebody that is not a racist. He has sex with different races of men, mostly black men. He is not a fan of Islam because of how they treat gays. So if you want someone to be an SJW and stand up for LGBT rights, why would you not stand up against Islam in many of these Middle Eastern countries that throws gays from the top of tall buildings? Why wouldn't somebody be against that if they're gay? That just kind of would make sense. So he is what the SJW should want. But since he does not adhere to all their core tenets that don't make any sense, then he's their enemy. It's just weird. It's weird. What I think a lot of it is people that just don't know what they're doing. A lot of college kids have no idea what they're doing, been indoctrinated from a young age. It's like I saw that lady that was out there. Shout out to Talib Starks. I was on this show earlier today, and we saw this clip of this woman with a big bullhorn talking about kill white people, give us all your money, this, that, and the third. And I think she was actually a school teacher of small children. So how can a child grow up in a well, put together kind of way with people like that are teaching them, that are educating them, they're indoctrinating them with hate. So then when they get to grow up, they're 18, 19 years old, they're in college. What else are they going to do but be out there protesting and rioting? They've been fueled with this rage since they've been a child, maybe at home with their parents or single parent or whatever it is. And also at school, on TV and everything else. You got false, kind of halfway true, halfway false reports from NBC, not telling you the full story about who Milo is. I saw something on CNN talking about, Milo said it's okay to engage in hate speech. Stupid stuff, but that's what we kind of dealing with here. That's why people like me exist. There's many other of us on the internet that have to be here to get this message out, the real message out, and not this fake news stuff. And it's ironic how much the mainstream media talks about fake news when they are the biggest perpetrators of it. I saw a story about Donald Trump talking about, he changed Black History Month to African American History Month. Now, I thought it was real because I saw it on a bunch of other so-called reputable organizations, and I posted it myself. And then TMZ actually changed their article, and then the other ones kind of deleted the article quietly. It's like, okay, I'm starting to see a lot more of that. It's to the point now where I don't trust anything from the mainstream media, but you have to understand the average person in America that's not really aware of the political game that's being played on TV. They'll take whatever is being said by the mainstream media, hook, line, and sinker, right? That's what's going on, and it's really unfortunate. And when you have stories like this about Milo, Richard Spencer, etc., it just kind of fuels it. And then they go out there in real life, and then they do things that can endanger other people and also themselves. And then when it's all said and done, when all the smoke clears, what are they going to be able to do in their future when they grow up? How will they contribute in a positive way to American society? Once you have that kind of foundation upon which to build, how can you build in a positive way? A lot of those kids out there might end up on drugs and everything else, because what else are you going to be able to do when you have no real solid foundation in reality? That's the end of my rant on that. I definitely want to get it off my chest. Shout out to Talib Starks for having me on the show today. I definitely appreciate you. And the topic we talked about, that definitely kind of led me here. I saw it on the news tonight. I definitely want to see their perspective on it. And I saw how they arranged the story. I definitely wanted to kind of talk about that and give my 2 cents and my point of view. So what do you think? Do you think that Milo Yiannopoulos brings a lot of this on himself because he's a so-called provocateur? And that's the reason why there's so many riots at UC Davis, UC Berkeley, what happened yesterday, and also at University of Washington when somebody got shot. Somebody got shot right before Milo's speaking engagement, and it was kind of unclear as to what happened. They said it might be self-defense or something like that. I'm not really sure who the belligerents, like, was it a Milo's supporter that got shot, or was it vice versa? I don't know. But do you think it's his fault? Does he bring it on himself? Or do you think that he is somebody that should be allowed to have a platform? He's not advocating any violence towards anybody. He's just keeping it 1,000. He's keeping it real, as the kids say. He talks about Islam in a way that could be seen as negative because of how they treat gays, and he's gay. So isn't that his best interest? I mean, if you talked about a country that still has slaves and you're black, wouldn't you talk about that country kind of in a negative way because they still got slaves, right? I mean, the country might be just fine outside of the slavery part. And if you're not a black person, maybe it doesn't apply to you. It should, but maybe it doesn't. But if you're black and the country has slaves like Mauritania in Africa right now today, the Arabs have black slaves. Well, shouldn't I talk about that? Well, I can't talk about that because the Arabs, the Muslims are off limits. It doesn't make any sense. They don't tell me I'm off limits in their country, but I digress. Whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.